You're listening to the League Bound Podcast.
Coming again. Oh, mercy.
Your source for weekly coverage on the future stars of the NBA.
Gives it to Jenkins for the championship.
I'm your co-host, Jake Schrantz.
And I'm your co-host, Brandon Blue.
With production for the podcast coming from Broderick Wilkin.
With the first pick in the NBA draft.
Hello and welcome back to the League Bound Podcast, where we break down prospects and the best players in college basketball while also talking about breaking news in the college basketball world. I am your co-host, Brandon Blue, here with my boy Jake.
What's going on, everybody? It's Jake Schrantz here. Doing pretty rough here tonight. Tough loss for maybe the favorite team on the podcast, Missouri State, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Brody, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. We got a lot of things to look forward to in this podcast. We're going to be looking at the Wooden Player of the Year nominees. Well, I guess they're not nominees per se, but they're potential candidates for this year's Player of the Year. And we're going to talk about who we think will come out on top.
Moving right along, I'm just kind of sad today because...
Why are you sad, Brandon?
Why are you sad, man?
There's no negativity, bro.
Man.
I mean, we love the negativity section, and not having it on this week is just a plain bummer. I don't think, unless we missed something, there really was nothing nearly as wild as we've had the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, nothing serious this week.
It's really a bummer. Hopefully it comes back next week as people start getting more chippy trying to get those spots in March Madness.
Definitely.
If y'all did notice anything and we missed it, let us know in the comment section, because I don't want to go another pod without missing.
For sure.
What's the news?
First up, we're gonna have a little debate about who our front runners are for Wooden Player of the Year. I think the main candidates right now are Oscar Tshiebwe, Ochai Agbaji, and Johnny Davis. Jake, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so we're kind of going to get into it a little bit later with Ochai, but I think right now he's third on my list of these three. Oscar Tshiebwe, just by pure numbers, is probably the clear favorite in my opinion, just because he's one of the best rebounders we've seen in years this year. He's still scoring. He's one of the best offensive weapons that Kentucky has this year to just throw the ball in. He's pretty big. He's not super tall at the 5 position, but he gets it done with just his pure physicality. He's had multiple 20-point games. He's just a beast. He's carrying Kentucky. But then I think right now he's still second to Johnny Davis for me, just because Wisconsin was not really highly touted as kind of going into the season. They weren't really the favorite in the Big Ten, but just the way that he's been able to carry this team in some tough games, especially against like Purdue, even on the road. They get it done at home against Purdue again. He's just had a lot of games where when they need him to play the best, he kind of gets it done for them and even more than they could ask for. So I think Johnny Davis on a team that was not highly touted going into the season and leading them to maybe a top 3 seed in the March Madness tournament, I think that kind of gets it done and wins some National Player of the Year.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I will say, for me, I think Ochai, he's probably not my favorite right now, honestly. I'd have to say, even though he is a KU player, I would have to say that I probably have Oscar first, just because, like you said, I feel like he alters the game more than I would say Johnny or Ochai does. They're both really good scorers, but he provides so much more. Because, he can be a paint beast and give you like a solid 20 a game, but he also protects the board so well, and just his presence in the paint, I think creates a lot of issues for teams. Now, the reason I have Ochai at second is just because I feel like with a team like KU, I feel like they are really good, but at the same time, I look at Wisconsin and I feel like they just have, this might be weird to say, but I feel like they play more, they have better shooters in a way. And with KU, like, we're supposed to be a good shooting team, but sometimes it feels like there's a lot of games where they'll just kind of get cold from behind the line, and I think Ochai in a lot of part, he accepts that, or he understands that he's the best player on the team. And so he's always that guy, I feel like, that they can rely on. Ignoring today. Today didn't happen. But, outside of, just that one bad performance he had, I feel like he's still second. Whereas Johnny Davis, it feels like, I know there were a lot of games I watched. There's games where I have seen him do really well, but there have been times when it just seems like his presence wasn't really needed. And that's something I kind of take into factor too when I look at front runners for Wooden Player of the Year. So,
I mean, Johnny Davis doesn't have a clutch three to go into overtime, does he? I mean, I don't know if he had more than one over the season, but I remember watching Ochai land an absolute clutch three that I'm sure NBA teams just drool at. I mean, this is obviously Wooden Player of the Year talks, but
Ochai does have that clutch.
I think those Johnny Davis struggling games are really going to hurt his running for Player of the Year, because when he's not running, he's really not a factor of that team.
Yeah, and just two quick things to add here. I just looked it up. His name, Cassius Winston, was the point guard at Michigan State.
Yes.
He was a nice headband killer. But then also, I do think Oscar Tshiebwe, overall, he probably will win in the end, just because I don't think they're going to be able to ignore the numbers that he puts up. They just beat Florida today, and he was a beast. He had almost 30 points, double-digit rebounds again. He's a double-double. Like, he's just a walking double-double. You're not going to keep him off the glass. So he's definitely going to win, in my opinion. But if I was picking, I think I would give it to Johnny Davis.
I kind of wanted to talk about this because I know a lot of the Power 5 tournaments, it's kind of like they're all kind of wide open, and it's a matter of who do we think is going to win. But this one I think is probably the most polarizing, and that is the Big Ten tournament. Just because we've seen so many power shifts from the top with Purdue, Wisconsin, Illinois, and I feel like you kind of look at all those teams together, and they've kind of thrown shots back and forth at each other. But for me personally, I don't know about y'all. I personally think it's between Purdue and Wisconsin. And if this week had anything to say, I think that's going to be the matchup to watch and hope we get in the championship.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the end of the season Big Ten tournament bracket's going to kind of shape. But if we get a Purdue versus Wisconsin, round 3 for the championship, that is going to be an epic matchup. We'll definitely be covering it. But for me, I think, it's really tough to beat a team 3 times in a season. Wisconsin's got the better of Purdue in their last 2 matchups this year. But I think Purdue is kind of going underrated just because of, they have a couple losses this season. I think they have 6 or 7. But, a lot of those are coming at the buzzer. Last couple shots, getting up and just losing at the end. So Purdue has been a pretty consistent team all year long, and I think that they will be able to get it done over Wisconsin.
I will like to say, when you look at Purdue and Wisconsin, I feel like they have when you look at teams that win, just conference tournaments and, national championships, I feel like they have the 2 factors you kind of need to win a championship. A big man. In Purdue's case, they have 2 who can kind of control the pace.
They've got the biggest man in Zach Edey. That dude is massive.
He just kind of controls the game, and the paint, nothing easy's coming. And Purdue, they have a guy who can go and get buckets whenever in Jaden Ivey. But I think where Wisconsin beats them is, as we saw at the end of their matchup, they have multiple guys, not just Johnny Davis, but they have Chucky Hepburn, another guy who can go and give you a bucket to save you at the end of the buzzer.
Yeah, that was a crazy shot. Just step back off the glass this week. Absolutely brutal way to go down.
And I think that kind of proves the way that Wisconsin can really be a clutch team coming into these next games and tournaments and March Madness and whatnot. But really, if I had to have a take here, I mean, with a lot of conference tournaments, I feel like it's so open. And I feel like the Big Ten's one of those. Yes, these teams are clearly better, but I could really see maybe Michigan State or another team pulling off an upset on one of these teams.
That's an interesting take with Michigan State, because they've been a team who's gotten kind of some upsets and also just some losses to worse teams earlier in the year. So
there's a lot of up and down teams. I mean, We could talk about Nebraska going on a
Yeah, I
on
mean,
a 2-win run
Nebraska-
after not winning a game for about 10 games straight.
one of the hottest teams in the Big Ten right now. How about that?
I don't think people want to see Nebraska from now on. We're winning out. But
I mean, you kind of are right on the nose with it, Brody. Like almost all season in the Big Ten, like we saw earlier, like maybe a month or so ago, Rutgers was probably the hottest team in the country, and now their hype has kind of dropped off with some tougher losses throughout the end of the season. But stuff like that, just random teams can just get hot, and in a loss and you're out kind of environment like the tournament is, the Big Ten is really up for grabs for pretty much anyone.
And I think for a lot of teams, that's the motivation they need to keep fighting in a playoff scenario. And I think we'll really get to see which teams have that it factor coming soon to the Big Ten tournament.
next in our news, this was kind of funny to see, I'm not going to lie. But Coach K lost in his final game at Cameron to their biggest rivals, UNC. The UNC Tar Heels. 4 UNC starters today scored 20-plus points. Nobody on Duke was really that special. Paulo had 23, though, on 11 of 26.
Of course.
But, this Duke team, they always just amaze me because I feel like one week they have me feeling like, man, they might go deep in the tournament. But then I just wonder how they're going to play against some of these. I think, honestly, their biggest enemy is going to be teams who we see them play like in the earlier rounds who might not necessarily be as good as them because it just feels like they don't bring the same energy every game.
Yeah, I feel like for me, a lot of people are going to be concerned about this loss. But my bold prediction right now is that this loss to UNC kind of lights a fire under Coach K in his final year, lights a fire under the whole team. This one's got to hurt for them. Losing at home to your biggest rival in front of all those Duke legends, like Jay Williams was there, a bunch of other people were there that are kind of prevalent in like the media now today. And just, I feel like going into March, that's kind of what you need. You need that fire to kind of get your team going. And I've kind of been on this train all year where I think I'm probably going to heavily favor Duke in a lot of matchups going into March. I might even pick them all the way. I'm not quite sure yet how the bracket's going to look, but I just think this team is way too talented to kind of write off so early on.
I will say, part of me, even this is kind of like a random, comparison, but I think about that, Lakers season where Kobe died and then the outside forces kind of played in and it just made a perfect story where the Lakers brought back the championship to the city of LA and, brought some happiness back. And I feel like, something similar, I want to think something similar would happen here where it's Coach K's final season and he goes out like a goat and gets that national championship. But it is hard for me to ignore that so much of this team is also really, really young too. And I would like to think that, man, they'll put it together and because I do agree with you. I think they could be the most talented team in all of the NCAA. Mm-hmm. But at times, I also look and think about that 2019 Duke team, and they were probably one of the best basketball teams we've seen in a while. But they had a couple of close games, and eventually they got sent out by Michigan State. And so I just fear that that's going to happen with this team as well.
Yeah, and the thing with Michigan State that year, they were more kind of senior laden. They had, I think that one, I can't think of his name, but that one point guard from Michigan State was really good in that game. Xavier Tillman was on that team, a lot of kind of upperclassmen, and that was enough to take down a team with your best players being freshmen. So we'll see if that happens this year again for Duke.
The stock market.
And now with that, we're going to take it over to my favorite segment, being the stock market here. So this is our segment, if you don't know yet, where we talk about a couple players who we think their draft stock has gone up over the past week or so. And then we also have another player who we think their stock went down this week. So to start it off, my first stock up player is going to be from right here in Lincoln, Nebraska. It's going to be Bryce McGowens. I think after this week, he's just absolutely locked up Big Ten Freshman of the Year, especially after this game against Ohio State. But Yeah, like I said, 2 road wins at the end of the season. They beat Penn State and also a ranked Ohio State team. He really showed out in both games. He had 25 and 6 rebounds versus Penn State, and 26 points and 4 rebounds versus Ohio State, both in wins, like I said. He's really just been the go-to scorer for the Huskers all year long. And he's averaging over 17 points a game, which is really good for a freshman. You know, you look at the numbers for kind of these draft prospects. He's second among like relevant draft eligible players in scoring per game for freshmen, just behind Jaden Ivey. They both score about 17 a game. I've had to explain to a lot of people this year just how offensively talented he is. 49% of his attempts from the field get him going to the free throw line, which is really impressive when he's such a good free throw shooter. Over 80% from the line. He's one of the best free throw shooters in the Big Ten and in the nation. And I think his outside shot is much better than the percentages will tell you.
And I think this is one of the very few things where I personally can say something about it, because I've watched just mostly every game he's played. And over the season, he's just gotten so much better. I think with that, he's also gained muscle and weight, and that's really helped him. And these last 2 games that give him this week's stock up have like just blown me out of the water how much better he's gotten over the season. He's really proving himself as a draft pick, and I think he is really trending up, and I think a lot of NBA teams are going to be eyeing him higher in the first round than they normally would have thought originally. I guess we'll kind of have to see what he does in the tournament too, but
Yeah, this might be a hot take from me, but I think he will definitely be in the top 20. I don't know if the GMs will see him that high, but I think looking back on this draft, I think his value will be up there. But now my second stock up player this week is going to be KJ Williams, the 6'10", 245-pound big man from Murray State, which, if you guys know, this is the same school as John Morant. Just a fun fact there for you. He has 13 20-plus point per game, or 20-plus point performances this year, and he also has 4 30-point games this season with a season high of 39, which is really, really good for college. He's a good shooter, 54 from the field, 33 from three-point range, which is pretty solid from a big man, 6'10". He even shot 40% last year from 3, so that's kind of dropped off this year. But I think he had less attempts last year from 3, so with more attempts this year, it's going to go down. But I would definitely look for Murray State with him kind of leading them in that effort. I would look for Murray State to make some kind of big plays in the tournament this year, and maybe even get more wins than they did when John Morant was with them. What do you think, Brandon?
For my first stock-up player of the week, we have Keegan Murray, 6'8" forward, 225 pounds out of Iowa. This week he had 26 and 23 versus Northwestern and Michigan. I was looking at his game log, and ever since he had that 30-point performance versus versus Maryland on February 10th, he's really just been on a tear in the Big Ten. He's only had one performance that was below 20 points, I believe, and that was Nebraska's home game against Iowa. But he runs the floor really well, gets out in transition, can be comfortable playing around the perimeter, and I think he's just the type of player that will thrive at the next level. Definitely a top 10 pick in my eyes. For my second stock up, I had to show some more love to Tari Eason. He had 24 versus Arkansas, and he was pivotal in their win versus Alabama today. He had 20 points, a clutch basket, and a block to give LSU the lead. He's been one of the few bright spots for the LSU Tigers during their abysmal SEC play. They started off SEC play ranked, and they kind of dropped, but he has been consistently their best player, and I think he's someone we've seen rise up.
Yeah, and it's really nice to see Tari Eason back up in this, stock up range, because even last week we were thinking about putting him for stock down after a tougher week, but we decided to go with that man, Juwan Howard. He was our stock down last week, but good to see Tari Eason back up here. I think he deserves it.
And now for our stock down player. Ochai, I'm sorry, bro. 8 points, 9% field goal
Yikes.
percentage. You only made 1 field goal. I'm sorry. I'm happy we got the dub, though, so it's okay.
Big win.
as a Kansas fan, does that kind of hurt to see him struggle?
Yeah, it does a little bit. Just because, especially against since the team it came against too, Texas, he didn't really have a good game against them last time. I can't remember his stat line the last game they had, but both of these are teams he's kind of struggled against. And, I just know going into Big 12 play, I am a little bit worried that even that game against Baylor, he put up a lot of shots. I think he finished with like over 20 plus, but he didn't really have the best performance. I'm just worried like going into March Madness, teams will start to kind of look at these games and game plan around him. And also he's been, I don't know what it is, but he's just been streaky lately because there were some wide open shots he had. He just didn't get them to fall. So I don't know if it's just a mental thing or what, or maybe a mixture of that and game planning. But
You think he stays in the first round in the draft, even with his stock going down?
Definitely. This was only just one performance, and I'm hoping, especially since we're going to get into postseason play, he'll kind of turn it up a notch. But I can't, it's just because of how well he's played this season, I feel like it's really hard to see him fall out of the first round.
Performance of the week.
And next, our best performance of the week goes to University of North Carolina taking out Duke on Coach K-Day. Brady Manick had 20 points and 11 rebounds, and 4 starters finished with 20-plus points.
Wow.
Yeah, I really can't go, understated. Just UNC just coming in, just pure villain tendencies, just taking out Duke at home with all that, energy in the building. That was really impressive, and I think that was definitely the best performance we saw all week.
I would also like to point out UNC's really lack of depth that they've had all season. And even today, they only had 2 bench points, I believe. So when you look at that, that is just crazy. But those starters really, they were on their game today.
League Him.
And now, for our League Him player of the week, Isaiah Mosley. Congratulations. We had to give you a proper send-off. You were one of our favorite players to watch this season. We had really high hopes for you. You actually played really well today against...
Yeah. Can we talk about the game quick?
Yeah, Murray State versus Drake. How many points did he have? He had like 25, I believe.
Still went crazy as he always has been this entire season.
He was drawing so much attention, like so many double teams, but he was just passing and slicing it up.
Yeah, end of the regulation, he was actually, because he was getting double teamed a lot tonight, but he was making some nice passes. He only ended up with 5 assists, but I don't think all of the passes he was making, they were finishing, so that kind of is underrated. But yeah, 27 points. 9 of 20 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3. He was just a straight dog like he always is. We're going to be hoping, obviously, just pure hope that they get lucky on Selection Sunday, maybe get some just lucky votes to get in somehow as like maybe a 16 seed, I don't know. But most likely their season is going to be over for the second-ranked team in the Missouri Valley Conference.
Yep.
But, we'll hopefully be seeing Isaiah Mosley again here in a couple months at the NBA Draft Combine, where he will continue his dominance and be one of the best players at the Combine.
There is a chance we could see him play in the NIT, though, as well.
Oh, that is true. NIT is coming up as well.
So hopefully he does some damage there. But
I seriously think Isaiah Mosley's been one of our favorite players to follow. I mean, we brought him up, episode 2?
Episode 1.
Episode 1.
Or
It's
was it
almost
episode
like
1?
poetic.
Yes, episode 1.
It is poetic because
Our
this
first
is one
ever
of our,
League Him, and he's back again.
Yeah, one of our final ones before Selection Sunday, before madness ensues, and we have to. I guess our coverage will probably switch up quite a large amount over the next 2 weeks or so. But yeah, I mean, he was an unreal player. Hats off to him. Hope he keeps his dominance, and hopefully in NIT or maybe even we'll see a 16th seed upset again.
Who knows,
First
man?
4, maybe.
We've seen crazier things in college basketball, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen. But
Probably
we'll be
not.
hoping.
But hey.
Prospect Breakdown.
And now it is time for our prospect breakdown. AJ Griffin, it is your time. Physicals, he is a 6'6", 222-pound freshman out of White Plains, New York. And now Jake will hit you with the scouting report.
Yeah, so, we've seen it ever since he started to get more minutes for Duke. He's just a sniper from the perimeter. There's no other way to say it. It seems like whenever he's left open outside, it's just straight money. Over 52% of his shots come from 3-point range, and he's making them at a clip of almost 50%, 48.7% from three. That is just, I don't know if we've seen something like that in a while, which he's just a special talent, man. We talk about how Jabari Smith Jr. is insane from the outside at the top of this draft. Chet Holmgren, even, he's been a really good shooter, but I think it's time we talk about AJ Griffin maybe being the best shooter in this entire draft class, especially in the catch and shoot, which is what I think is his biggest strength coming into the league. What do you think, Brendan?
I have to agree, especially about him being one of the best shooters because he, when you actually look at his form, it kind of catches you off guard because he starts from his pelvis and then there's like a weird hunch or like hitch to it and then he flings it, but it just goes in every time. So it's like, what can you do? And he's tall, so he can just shoot over everybody. So
I'm interested to see if the shooting coaches on whatever team he goes to try to switch up his form or if they're just kind of satisfied with the 52% attempts and 48% makes. So
yeah. A guy like Tyler Hero, he had a pretty good jumper, but they still fixed his, I know. So anything's possible. But to keep talking about AJ Griffin, as we mentioned, he's shooting 48% from the three. But can we also talk about how strong this man is?
He's insane.
Like, bro is 222 pounds. And if you look at his body, he is like already pretty much, he looks like a Jimmy Butler. I don't want to say he plays like a Jimmy Butler. He actually
does. I didn't even think about that, but he really does.
Yeah, they don't play like, I hate when people say that he plays like Jimmy Butler because he really doesn't.
No.
But they really do look the same. And also when he dribbles and like gets into the paint, he just finishes over everyone. But I know Jake said he would like to see him do that a little bit more, and I would too. And I think when he gets into the next level, that might be something he has to do a little bit more, especially now, because I feel like he's going to have that reputation going into the league as primarily a shooter. And so people are kind of going to game plan for him, and they're just going to know that, hey, this is what this guy does.
Yeah, we've seen a couple prospects. I don't think he was nearly rated this high as AJ Griffin, but if you remember a couple years back, someone like Aaron Nesmith out of Vanderbilt, he was a sniper on the outside with the catch and shoot, just like AJ Griffin. And he's kind of taken a little bit of time to kind of get adjusted to the speed and the difficulty of the league just because that was kind of his main skill coming in. And he didn't have too much ball handling to kind of supplement when defenses kind of make it tougher on him. But we'll see if AJ Griffin is a different type of player. But right now, I think his biggest weakness for me is just that with that amazing perimeter shooting that he displays basically on like a weekly basis, it comes with a lot of, failing to get to the free throw line and drawing contact in the lane. He has, as you said, he has a really strong body and great measurables for a 2-guard in the NBA, or even maybe a smaller 3 in the league right now. But I would like to see him improve at kind of taking the initiative to get into the lane more often and, get some easy points at the free throw line. He's shooting just under 76% from that, the free throw line this season. That's pretty solid for a guard, but if he can get to the line a little bit more, he can really up that scoring average even more.
Another thing with him, I feel like he's got good size, but he's really not that athletic, I don't feel like. It doesn't matter because he's 6'6" and 222 pounds. But when I've looked, I was watching some film before I came, and I just noticed kind of how slow-footed he is defensively. And, I feel like that's where that size kind of helps him out a lot. But I wonder, when you get to assuming he's still playing like that shooting guard, small forward position when he gets into the league, those guys are pretty quick too. So, and they'll have the same amount of size. So I just wonder, I genuinely just don't know how his defense is going to translate. Because part of me feels like he'll be a good defender at the next level, just because he has good instincts and, I feel like he reads passing lanes really well. But part of me also feels like I'm genuinely just torn. But I think that another thing that's kind of concerning is, I know he plays with like a lot of talented guys at Duke, but he's just so up and down. He's consistently been a good shooter, which I feel like if that's what he's going to be at the next level, then it doesn't really matter. But there's times when he'll go for like 20 points, and the next game he'll go like for 5 and only take like 2 or 3 shots a game. And I know as he starting out, he didn't really he wasn't really getting a whole lot of minutes too. So it was kind of like, I wish I had a little bit more of a consistent sample size of him, really going off, just so I could kind of get a better feel. But I like where he's at right now.
Yeah, now moving into the kind of the fit in the draft, it's kind of an interesting fit for me because I really like him with the Kings kind of at the top of this draft. Swipa, De'Aaron Fox, he's a really good guard at can kind of getting into the lane and finding his teammates. He's not that amazing of a shooter. He's kind of just average to below average at times. But now with that trade that they made this season with, bringing in Domantas Sabonis on the inside, he can do a lot offensively, even playmaking a little bit. So I think with those two options already on the team, I think that AJ Griffin could fit right in, kind of into the void where Buddy Hield left with the trade. He's now on the Pacers. So I think that Fox could raise his level of play by getting him in the right spots and kind of helping him improve his playmaking possibly even. But it's kind of interesting because the way that he gets his buckets right now, I don't think they're even in terms of quality of college basketball player, but I would even compare him more to like Buddy Hield right now just because both of them in college were really good, efficient shooters, especially from 3. And, they're kind of similar sized guards. I think Buddy is probably more shot ready and kind of trigger happy, but, both kind of big guards on the wing and just shoot the lights out every day. So I think the Kings are the best fit for AJ.
My hope for AJ, I'd like to see him end up in either Houston or OKC. Houston I really like just because they've already got Jalen Green, Kevin Porter, who I'm still kind of like iffy about him running the point. But I feel like if you pair those two up with like a really good shooting 3 like AJ, and someone who's, as we've seen with Duke, he's not really going to command the ball a lot. And if he gets more solid defensively, I just feel like that'll be a really good core to have going forward. And as far as OKC goes, I feel like they could really take on a lot of people, really. But they have Josh Giddey, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and I feel like, as I've said before, he's not someone who demands the ball a lot. So those stars will still thrive, and that just gives you another elite shooter around the perimeter to pair up with that already dangerous backcourt.
Yeah, but just to kind of wrap it up here with AJ Griffin's prospect breakdown, I think it's pretty clear me and Brandon are both pretty high on him as a talent. He's a freshman this year. He's still really young and has a really high ceiling. I think his floor is pretty high right now as a shooter. But I think if you're taking a shot like a guy like AJ Griffin at the top, he has a ton of skills that if you believe in your coaching and development staff, he's really just like a ball of clay. He's got the physicals to get this job done in the NBA, and he has a really high ceiling, I think. So we'll definitely see him in the top 10 in this draft, no doubt. But yeah, that wraps it up for AJ Griffin, and now let's take it to the trivia section.
Trivia!
And now we'll enter the trivia section where I quiz these two gentlemen on their college basketball and NBA draft knowledge. I think as of now, it is a 3-3 tie between Jake and Brandon for who has won the most so far in the podcast. We are on episode 7, so that means there is a tiebreaker. We got 3 questions for today, and they're actually all college questions. Just because we're leading up to March Madness, and we're really feeling that college basketball March Madness vibe. Let's start with number 1. Who did the University of North Carolina Michael Jordan play when he made his famous jump shot in the
Georgetown.
1982 National Championship?
It was Georgetown. I just watched The Last Dance again. It was Georgetown, 100%.
I also know it was Georgetown.
You can leave
Jake
that as
said
a
it
question.
first, so I think Jake said it first, so I think he got it
It's
right.
fine. He can get the point.
All right. Jake, That is correct. It was Georgetown.
Yeah.
Jake was really quick to the trigger there. I don't think you'll get these, though.
Oh,
These will be some good guessers.
big talk.
The NCAA basketball tournament has been around for a long time. However, when was the first March Madness ever played?
Multiple choice or not?
It is multiple choice. We'll go A, 1939,
Oh my God.
B, 1931,
What?
or C, 1948.
48.
48 as well.
And that is incorrect. The answer is
Wow.
A, 1939.
Oh my.
It was actually going on, I guess they had the first one during World War II, which is interesting.
Wow.
Well, actually,
That was like the beginning.
I don't think the U.S. was involved yet. But
Yeah, not yet.
I had some stuff written up about it. But yeah, it started then.
That's crazy.
It wasn't called March Madness
Yeah.
then, as we will lead into question 3, as it took a while for March Madness
Oh.
to get its name, March Madness. However, when did this come to fruition? Is it A, 1990, B, 1982, or C, 1974?
It was 1982.
I'm thinking it's 1990.
Okay. Well, looks like we're going to need overtime because B was correct and Brandon got it right.
Wow.
1982. I'll actually read you a quick fun fact here. It was basically a sportscaster, Brent Musburger, that's his name,
Legend.
uttered it during his college tournament coverage. He called it March Madness. Apparently, they also had legal entanglements in 1996 when an Illinois high school boys basketball championship basically sued them because they had been using it since 1939.
Wow.
So they'd used it. They literally started using it when the tournament started. But yeah, some fun facts there. Let's get some Tankathon going then, I say.
Oh.
Let's make it quick, of course. For anyone who doesn't know, our overtime, we pick out Tankathon, which is the NBA draft, an NBA draft almost encyclopedia. And we pick out a player in a random draft from the past, and whoever gets it right wins the overtime. You know what? If you find it, if you say it first, you get it right, okay? In 2006, what was the second overall pick? Or who got drafted second overall?
In what draft?
2006?
2006. Portland. He's still playing.
Still playing?
Yep.
I mean, it's not crazy if it's 2006 that he could still be playing. I'm just trying to think. 2006. Portland Trailblazers number 2.
Yep. He is still playing.
It's not Brandon Roy.
Are we allowed to ask for like other hints? Like
Can I give current team? Or is that too much?
Current team is all right, I think. Because they could have moved around.
I'll give
a lot.
current team. First one to say it. He is in Brooklyn.
LaMarcus Aldridge.
Jake got it.
yeah,
Let's go.
Yeah.
It was LaMarcus Aldridge,
Dang,
drafted in
I forgot he was that
2006
old.
at second overall from Portland, Oregon. Jake takes week 7, or episode 7, I should say. And
Let's go,
that is
man.
all we got here. That's 4-3 now.
Feels good to be back in the lead.
Brandon, you could easily take next episode.
I'm coming back.
Well, yeah, we'll see.
I'm coming
We'll
back.
see.
Yeah.
But with that, we will see you. I think we are planning on a little bit of an earlier podcast to kind of give you a before Selection Sunday breakdown of the potential bracket that could transpire. As that's going to do it for us. How about that, Jake?
Yeah, definitely. We're looking at releasing maybe a special here coming up pre-Selection Sunday. But with that being said, we're going to wrap it up here for episode 7 of League Bound. Thank you guys for listening as always. Thank you for watching on YouTube. You can follow us on social media. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Jacob Schrons.
You can follow me on Instagram at brandon.blue.
And you can follow me at Brody Wilkin on Twitter and at Broderick Wilkin on Instagram. And also Broderick Wilkin on YouTube. We are on YouTube and Spotify. And you can find us on both at League Bound. And thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, hit that 5-star rating on Spotify if you enjoyed it and if you want to see us do it more. We love doing it. And yeah, next episode will be a little bit earlier. And See you guys later. Have a good one.
Did y'all see LeBron put up 56?
Oh, he had a 56-piece McNugget.
56
Oh my
points.
God.
And he beat. Who'd he beat?
Warriors, man.
He
He had a, on a Saturday night, bro. Like, chill out.